big is this as a test for you and your players this weekend, Griff? It's a tough fixture for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, and look back at our last couple of years against Glasgow. They're the one side results-wise that we haven't managed to overturn. We've had some good results away in Ireland on a number of occasions, but obviously going away to Glasgow, we've come short the last couple of years. So they do represent a squad with huge depth, well resourced, and on the back of a disappointing weekend, we need to front up.
They've got a great home record as well in the Pro 12, 15 months without defeat. Yeah,
it is, and that's testament to a good environment, good coaching, and clearly good players with good squad depth. Even though they've lost obviously a fair few to Scotland, they just have got players coming through the sort of production line and some quality imports across the board. So they're top of the league, and for the reason, they're damn good quality to them, and there's no discernible weakness. One of the best defensive sides around, but obviously they cause problems ball in hand as well.
Well, what about your own form, Griff, as a team?
We felt, the LV period was fairly productive for us, especially getting people on the park against Bath, digging in and getting a good win in the last 10 minutes. So we felt encouraged going into Edinburgh, but I'm not going to lie, it was a real disappointing night. We were poor in all facets of play. Obviously, set piece put us on the back foot, but we had enough meaningful possession to do more with, and there was some bad individual decision making. And even though there's structures and systems which are getting us in good positions, getting us line breaks, we didn't take them. So even though we didn't play particularly well, we could have gone in at half time, comfortably with 2 scores on the board, and it's a different complexion. But we didn't do so, and then we put ourselves under stress second half, and we just kept compounding error on error and didn't react well.
With your scrum, can anything be done about it in the short term?
Well, we have a long coaches review over the weekend. They're going into Monday morning, and a large chunk of that was spent around the set piece. And there's a couple of little intricacies, little parts of the detail which we feel we can modify certain things, and we may get some results from it. I think it's becoming a big perception out there now that we have got a weak scrum, and whatever the outcome of it, we've got to change that perception. Hopefully just the refs can just view it as it is, and we can clearly have to get better in that area.
With Nicky Smith, when is he due back?
2-3 weeks. I'd hope the latter end of this block of rugby, but again, as we've been in the past, we're not going to rush him unduly to say we need to get him on the park for Munster. We may actually look to bide our time to the end of the month, March.
That'll be a boost.
Yeah, it would. So you look at us early season, we had a real intent about us up front. Obviously the big men as well, which makes a massive difference. Nicky being a beast for such a young man, and the size does make a difference. But obviously, look at where we were early season. We were playing off scrums a fair bit, and obviously been in positions that every header we made wasn't compounded by a penalty, which clearly is happening at the moment, and that again puts stress through the team, and it shouldn't affect us ball in hand, but perhaps it is deep down.
As you were in terms of personnel, in terms of people coming back and injuries, when people come back from Wales and 20s?
Yeah, there's a healthy contingent in terms of some of the Welsh boys being part of our session today, so we'll have discussions around game time and where we can take those for this weekend. Likewise, the 20s boys are available, and then it's as we were really in terms of the selection. So we feel we've perhaps got a bit more to choose from, and there's some healthy competition there, but I think people who come in are probably going to have to do a damn sight better than we were last weekend.
Could you clarify, sorry?
Yeah, so who's been gifted back to you?
Have you got back who happened to them that you know of?
The boys training today were Baldwin, Jarvis, Tiprick and King.
With Dan Baker, is he ready to return to the starting lineup?
Yeah, he's in the mix. As I said, back row is perhaps one area where we have got some healthy competition in, and he's obviously come on the field last weekend and had a little bit of game time, and it was a view to perhaps increasing that this weekend. And so again, go back to some of our work early season where you've got a little bit of work up front with Nicky Smith, and then some of the ball carrying stats of your Baker, your Hassler, who we're perhaps missing to a certain degree. It does make a difference to us in terms of where we can perhaps put our attacking game, and again relieve pressure from other areas. So yeah, he's certainly available.
Rory coming back in indicated probably a lack of depth in second row. Have you had any players come back to support you in that area, or are you still struggling with injury?
Still struggling with injury, really. Obviously, losing the two big staffers. The Cock early in the season has been a blow because again, we lose depth around these periods we saw in the autumn and now where we are with the second rows. He'd have been probably a good leader around this group and understanding the mechanisms of the set-piece game. And then Rania as well, latterly, is another disappointment for us in terms of his injury. So we are a little bit thin there. And again, pleased with how Roger Hughes, fronted up around the LV, and Rory is, is getting used to the physicality of the pro game. He saw a step up last weekend against a tough physical Edinburgh side coming from the under-20 group to our environment. But it is being careful how we nurture them, but knowing that we need true second rows, and obviously we've got other people in the mix to play there. But we're pushing on these boys to come through as well.
How do you assess Sam Davis's form?
In terms of ball in hand, he's moving really well, and I'm excited by the fact we have got systems and structures in play that are giving him opportunities to make line breaks. You look at him against Treviso, 3 or 4, another couple on the weekend, coming from what he sees, but coming from obviously people getting into positions around him. So I'm really thrilled with some of his movement and attacking play. He's probably disappointed, which is unusual for Sam, that perhaps some of the parts of the game that almost connect the dots, really, some of the sort of individual skill work and some of the decision making is slightly awry. And again, that comes from stress in different areas perhaps, so he gets overexcitable or sometimes too fast on certain things. So I think that's just time in the middle and experience and knowing this group and how to react and perhaps take our foot off the gas sometimes rather than always being full throttle. But we're pleased with him. As I said, it's been a good few weeks of work for him. And I think it's perhaps a different game this weekend with a different challenge, but he'll not be fazed by it.
Well, you're the right staff, Griff, down in Murrayfield under the high ball, he's immense at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, I often talk about aerial dominance and where it can change the flow of the game. 1 or 2 instances can change the flow of the game, let alone Biggs nailing those high balls. Obviously, Lee Halfpenny, Liam Williams. I thought it was the discernible difference between the two sides. I thought Wales, it was fantastic to see because I know they put a lot of effort into that time and work, and justifiably so.
Do you see the Ospreys pair, the half-back pairing, as the future for Wales, in your personal opinion?
I think that question's just probably just a constant, really, in terms of they've just got to keep earning the shirt by their own form. The regional form got them to that, and obviously I think they're doing it pretty good in terms of the systems and structures they play to, and they make good decisions based around that, and we certainly back them and will continue to do so.
Griff, how big a danger is Matt O'Wallow?
Yeah, he's been mentioned already a couple of times this week, and it's only Tuesday. I think he's a fantastic rugby player. In terms of he was the big difference in them conjuring a score from nothing in the last 4 minutes of last year's game when we were 9-6 up, and playing well in terms of the sort of the essence of the game. But he does that. He changes games in the blink of an eyelid, really, and you've just got to watch him, and that's easier said than done in terms of the box of tricks he's got, the ability to get out and challenge, and then you've got people around him then who can offload at fun and people who run good lines around him. So even though you've got to watch him, you've got to be careful that you just don't take your eye off where the other threats are as well. So that possesses its own challenge.
He's a bit like Shane.
Yeah, the ability to move offline and beat someone in a telephone box, and he can certainly do that. We've just got to pressure him as a scrum half and perhaps get to his kicking game and make it a part of our game that we can pressure them as a team, which we obviously didn't do defensively to Edinburgh. It was another disappointing part of our game that we stood off tackles and weren't as physical as I'd class a true Osprey side.
How do you view that top half of the table now? Because interesting results over the weekend, just how do you view it as a whole now?
I think it's an interesting mix, really. We knew that this was a tough block of games for us, and of those 4 games, I think we've got to win 2-3 of them, to keep around that mix going into the last 5. So that's the challenge for this group, because you look at those sides, and even though there's sides around the middle and bottom battling for results, invariably you can see the Irish sides do get consistent around this time of year. They pick up results pretty regularly, so that puts the heat on us to be just as consistent. And as I said, we've got to pick up a fair number of wins in this block, I think.
Just to clarify, the 4 players got training today. When do you find out when they're actually available? Because do you know them now?
Yeah, it's my understanding they're all available, but obviously we'll have probably more discussion, or Steve will, with Gats around what do you want in terms of game time, because they'll obviously have half an eye on where selection's leading to France, and we'll work off that.
I remember at the start of the season when we were just coming into the Pro 12, you were saying how you're using a very formulaic approach to your player selection. You wanted to maintain the side as regularly as possible. And then we saw the autumn internationals hit. I know, agreed they're not all Pro 12 games, but there was 4 losses on bounce. And once again, now we've got the Six Nations. You're beginning to struggle a little bit more. Do you think that there is a connection between having a solidified squad structure and then when half of those obviously disappear to Welsh camp, and granted this is across the board, it's not just the Ospreys, is there a correlation between the real loss of results because perhaps the boys who were left out on the field haven't had the opportunity to play in these games as often as the ones who've gone off to Wales?
Yeah, I think our better players win games for us, and obviously we pushed them on because we felt we needed the points in the bank in terms of trying to build a league season and stay competitive towards the end. And unfortunately, perhaps in the past we've been able to drip feed 1 or 2 in around the bigger and better players on a more regular basis, and perhaps we didn't feel we could do that. But I don't think there's a barrier to getting results. Look at the games in the autumn, Ulster away, Leinster away. We changed the side, but they're 2 games we were in with 5-7 minutes to go in both occasions, and that's going to 2 of the stronger sides in the league. Leinster, when it was the 4th international, they were full strength. We weren't, and we weren't a million miles off. So we'll just back what we've got in terms of the development coming through, keep coaching them to the best we can. As I said, I think the most disappointing one was Edinburgh on the weekend because we felt that they were missing a few, we were missing a few, and that was perhaps a more level playing field. We didn't take advantage, and I think those are the games we should do, and hopefully we can try and up the ante for this week. But we won't make excuses or say that we're not good enough in terms of our depth. We know we've been challenged, but we'll keep trying to push these to be better.
Realistically, what has that Edinburgh game had and impacted you in terms of your table position? Have you still got an opportunity to push your fortunes and go for that top spot once more, or are you wasting on other people's results nowadays? Or have we not got to that point yet?
No, I think there's a long way to go. There's 8 games left, and I think you start to rack up how many points you need. You get into that point of the year, but again, I think the reality is we focus on playing Glasgow, and we're really excited about playing a side that have challenged us in the past. But both our games against them last year we really enjoyed, even though the previous year they outplayed us, outthought us. Last year we felt we were the better side for large periods, and we've got to seize the initiative there and be smart, but also understand where we're playing good rugby. We're creating stuff on a regular basis, and we think we've got that game with this group still to go up and beat Glasgow.
Griff, Shane has finally retired. How good was he?
He was incredible. Certainly the best Osprey winger of all time, and there's some good competition there when I look at the players we had here around a certain period. Tommy in particular, probably the best Welsh winger of all time, I think, in terms of what he is. And I remember being a development coach and just watching and learning from him from a skill perspective, being involved with certain individual things he did. And then when I came back in, we obviously had the run to the final, and listening around the group, some of the information he imparted to people like Eli Walker, Hanno Dirksen at the time, was really so helpful, and a measure of the man and knowledge pool he built up that he's going to add value somewhere. I've asked to get him involved in a couple of things we've done in the past, and knowing that he's around the area, I'd love to get him in and chat to people like David Howells and some of our younger players about how they see the position developing.
Well, he's already mentioned he wouldn't mind coaching.
What's that?
He's already mentioned he wouldn't mind coaching, hasn't he? Is that something to consider?
Yeah, I saw him as I said, a good mentor and a good leader as his career developed, and I think he's probably getting a taste for it now, seeing the other side, and you gain that experience in different ways. But he's certainly got the playing experience and bank of information, but also he's gone into a coaching pool, which is credit to him, and seeing the game in a different way.